Every time I try to build my calling, something goes wrong. Why? If you've ever felt like the moment you got serious about stepping into your purpose or your calling, that everything started falling apart, this video is going to be for you. So I hear this cycle all the time from clients who are transitioning from a career and stepping into their purpose. And honestly, I've lived it myself. And usually with the clients I tend to work with, the belief is usually the enemy must be coming against me because this is so important. My calling is so important that the enemy is pulling out all the stops to get me not to be successful. And this tends to make sense to us, right? It feels very spiritual. And for those of us who grew up in a faith tradition, that's often what is taught. And it makes our calling feel really important and significant and gives meaning to our struggles. So in a weird sort of way, it can feel comforting, even though we're usually going through something very stressful when it's happening. The problem with this is that the belief often leads us to wait instead of build. And I've seen this with clients that they've been trying to build for years sometimes and feel like a failure because they can't seem to get past this loop. The enemy keeps attacking. Something always comes up. So let me tell you a little bit about my story here and how that relates. I started as a trauma therapist. I was working in treatment centers and private practice, and I had a wait list, never really had to market. And my career trajectory was really like steady and growing. But when I stopped doing that and stepped into my calling, which was coaching people online, speaking, wrote my first book, everything kind of changed. My husband found out that his company was closing its doors, so he suddenly lost his job. Over time, we had to move in with family, go through our savings, our retirement was gone, we even had to sell cars. And we really felt like we were stepping into some steps that we really felt called to. And so we felt spiritually attacked, you better believe it. And we felt betrayed by God because God had led us into this and it had wreaked havoc in our lives. Everything had fallen apart. So we really struggled with this pattern here. So it's why I understand why people land on that explanation. But here's the problem, and over a lot of years of failures and banging our heads against the wall, here's some things we learned. That belief that the enemy is coming against us leads to waiting instead of building. It's going to turn resistance into a sort of stop sign. How many of you watching this have really kind of put things on pause, like, well, when I get through this or when I get through that, then I'll start building. It's going to reinforce inconsistency. And in business, especially in what we live in right now, inconsistency doesn't just slow you down. It keeps you starting over because consistency is how people learn that they can trust you, that you show up consistently and they know, oh, she's here. She knows what she's talking about. She's not going to run away with my money, right? So I want you to think about a new perspective and a different way to ground this. This undermines what we say we believe about God. If every obstacle is the enemy stopping me, then functionally, Jesus won, but we're still mostly losing. And the cross is powerful, but not that powerful for me. All right? And that, at its core, that could be the biggest and only problem. But there's more. We'll talk about a little more about those. But scripture tells us a different thing, right? Colossians 2:15, Christ disarmed powers and authorities. Romans 8:37, we are more than conquerors. And Luke 10:19, we've been given authority over the power of the enemy. So if all of those things are true, the enemy coming after us is not really a factor. Because if the enemy can derail you indefinitely, what does victory ever mean? It means you're never going to fully step into your calling. So point 2 is a biological and neurological perspective. Your brain does not process calling as meaningful. It processes it as risk, because a calling involves being visible. It involves uncertainty. There's no guaranteed paycheck, especially early on. There's potential for failure and success. Some people are scared of either end of that. And the nervous system is asking, am I safe? Not, am I called? So think about it this way. Purpose triggers protection, biologically and neurologically. Purpose triggers protection. So, point 3, when something always comes up. When your system is overwhelmed, your brain scans for safer alternatives. Excuse me. Small issues are going to become urgent distractions, and your focus shifts to what feels more controllable. This is biology as well. So some examples of this are health issues that suddenly pop up. Your son needs you to drop something off at his school. You just feel fatigue, or just random things come up that just feel really urgent. And you've come to the end of the day and realize you did this, not the thing that you were planning on doing. So something to keep in mind with this is that when forward feels risky, distraction is going to feel necessary. So this is where things get really interesting, because even if you understand all of this, you're watching this and you're like, oh, Noelle, this is true. Most people still don't move forward consistently. And this is why so many capable, driven women stay stuck for years. So even when they know exactly what they're supposed to do, or they have a really clear vision and they feel like this is the purpose of my life, they get stuck. So if you would like to get the notes on this video, and in the notes, we are actually including some really practical, strategic steps you can take to get out of this cycle. Comment notes below and we'll get them to you. And I'm going to include in those notes some added information about why you can perform in a job brilliantly, but you tend to freeze once you've stepped into your calling. And I don't know of many people talking about that one. So if that sounds good to you, comment notes below and we'll get them out to you.